I can never work a day in my life, Linda laughed, tossing her designer handbag on the couch. Why should I? My husband is a billionaire. His money is enough for all of us to enjoy forever. Exactly, Mum, her 23-year-old daughter Vanessa chimed in. Dad's money is like a river that never dries. I'll never stress myself over work or hustle like common people. Mark, the man they were talking about, stood silently at the door. He had just returned from work, tired and dusty, from a surprise site inspection at one of his factories. He held his briefcase tight and looked at his wife and daughter. The words they spoke pierced his heart like a knife. He had worked hard all his life, building his empire from nothing. He started as a cleaner in a construction company. Now he owned companies, hotels and estates across the country. But hearing his wife and daughter talk like that made him wonder, do they love me? Or is it just my money they love? That night Mark couldn't sleep. He turned and tossed in bed beside Linda, who was snoring lightly with her silk bonnet still neatly placed. Thoughts flooded his mind. What if I really lose everything? Will they still love me? Will they stand by me? Or will they abandon me like yesterday's bread? The next morning he came up with a plan, a dangerous one, but necessary. He sat them both down after breakfast. There's something I need to tell you, he began, his voice shaking a little. I have lost everything. There was a big business deal that went wrong. All our accounts have been frozen. We are broke. Linda spat out her juice. What do you mean broke? How can you be broke? You're a billionaire. I was, Mark said. Now we have nothing. We have to move out of this mansion. I have arranged a small house in a rural village. That's the only place we can live now. Vanessa stood up, furious. Are you joking, Dad? Move to a village? Are we beggars? I can't even imagine using a pit toilet or sleeping without air conditioning. Linda folded her arms. I married a billionaire, not a pauper. Don't expect me to suffer with you. This must be a nightmare. But it wasn't a nightmare. 2 days later, they were in a rickety van, bouncing through dusty roads, with chickens and goats on the roadside staring at them like they didn't belong. Because they didn't. The house Mark had prepared was an old mud brick building with no electricity, no running water, and definitely no Wi-Fi. The mattress was flat, the toilet was outside, and they had to cook with firewood. This is inhuman, Vanessa cried the first night. I can't stay here. People here wear slippers everywhere and don't even have TikTok. Linda refused to cook. She sat on a wooden stool and looked into space. Mark, if this is the life you have for me now, then you have failed. Mark didn't say a word. He only smiled inside. The test has just begun. The next morning, Mark stood outside the small house with a hoe in his hand. He looked at his wife and daughter, still wrapped in fine bedsheets they had brought from the city. Let's go to the farm, he said gently. We need to grow something to eat. We can't survive here without farming. Linda hissed loudly and turned her face away. Me? Go to a dirty farm? Never. Do I look like a villager to you? I cannot dirty my beautiful skin for farming. Don't ever suggest that again. Vanessa rolled her eyes and picked up her phone. Daddy, please stop all this village talk. There's no network here, no Instagram, no friends, no AC. Farm? That's the last thing I will ever do in my life. Mark said nothing. He simply walked away with his hoe and a bottle of water. The sun was already high when he reached the farm. He began clearing the weeds, sweating and panting. With every swing of the hoe, he remembered the days when he sat in his air-conditioned office, sipping fresh juice. But now, here he was, in the hot sun, pretending to be a poor man just to test his family. When he returned in the evening, tired and hungry, he found the house empty and cold. No food, no fire, no smile. His stomach rumbled as he sat down on the old wooden bench. He looked at Linda and asked gently, Is there any food? Linda didn't even look at him. She crossed her legs and said, So you expect me to cook with firewood? Me? Do I look like a village woman? You must be joking. Mark stood up slowly and walked to a corner. He sat on the floor, covered his face with his hands, and began to cry, loud, heavy sobs that shook the walls. What kind of life is this? He cried. What did I do to deserve this? I gave them everything. I worked hard every day. And now that I need love and support, they treat me like trash. Suddenly, he heard footsteps. It was Vanessa. She stood by him quietly, holding a small bowl of water. "Daddy," she said softly, "don't cry, please." Mark looked up, surprised. "Vanessa?" "I'm sorry, Daddy. I have been selfish and blind. I didn't realize how much you have done for me. Since I was born, you've always provided everything. Food, clothes, school, even luxury. I never lacked anything. I've never even seen you cry before." Tears filled Mark's eyes again, but this time they were tears of surprise. Vanessa knelt beside him. "I will cook for you, Daddy. I will make something with the little we have, and tomorrow I will go with you to the farm." Mark looked at her like he was seeing his daughter for the first time. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "Yes, Daddy. I've realized my mistakes. I love you. I won't leave you to suffer alone." He hugged her tightly, tears streaming down both their cheeks. For the first time since they arrived in the village, Mark smiled from his heart. The next morning, the village air was fresh, and the sun was not too hot yet. Mark and Vanessa carried their hoes and walked together to the farm, talking and laughing along the way. Vanessa wiped sweat from her forehead. "Daddy, farming is not easy, oh. My back is already paining me." Mark chuckled. "Now you see why villagers have strong muscles. But I'm proud of you. You came with me, and that means the world to me." Meanwhile, back at the house, Linda was sitting outside under a mango tree, fanning herself with a piece of cardboard. Her face was full of frustration. No electricity, no TV, no cold drink. "This life is not for me," she muttered. Just then, a sleek black SUV pulled up in front of the compound. Dust rose as the tires skidded to a stop. A tall, round-bellied man stepped out, wearing traditional clothes with golden chains hanging from his neck. He held a walking stick and wore a big smile. It was Chief Edward, one of the wealthiest men in the village, and also the most feared. "Good morning, fine woman," he said with a deep voice. "Is your husband around?" Linda stood up quickly. "No, he's not around. He went to the farm with my daughter." Chief Edward smiled, showing his brown teeth. "Ah, what a pity. But since he's not here, can I speak with you for a moment?" Linda raised her eyebrow. "Speak with me? What for?" The chief looked her up and down. "You are too beautiful for this kind of suffering. What is a fine woman like you doing with a poor man like Mark? Come with me. I will take care of you. Be mine. Don't waste your beauty in this village life." Linda gasped. "Excuse me?" The chief moved closer. "I'm serious. See your smooth skin. Very soon your cream will finish. And I know you have no money to buy another one. Let me spoil you, Linda. I have money, cars, houses. Anything you want." Linda folded her arms, pretending to be shocked, but deep inside she was listening. "I do like fine and wealthy men like you," she said slowly. "But my only problem is that you already have 3 wives. I don't want to be wife number 4. Chief Edward laughed loudly. "Don't worry about them. They are old news. They can never match your beauty. You'll be the favorite. I'll build you your own house and give you your own car. You'll be treated like a queen." Linda looked around and lowered her voice. "I will think about it." The chief smiled again and brought out a brown envelope. "Use this for now. Buy yourself something nice." She collected it quickly and hid it under her dress before anyone could see. As the chief walked back to his SUV, he turned and said, "I'll be back. Don't make me wait too long, my queen." Linda waved slowly, watching the car disappear down the dusty road. She held the envelope tight and looked around the quiet compound. She smiled to herself. Poor man Mark. Who said I must suffer with you? When Mark and Vanessa returned from the farm, their clothes were soaked with sweat. Their hands were dirty, their backs aching, but their hearts were light, at least Mark's was, knowing his daughter had changed. As they entered the compound, a delicious smell hit Mark's nose. "Wait," he paused, sniffing the air. "Is that chicken and rice?" Vanessa looked confused. "But we didn't buy any meat." "Daddy, did you buy chicken?" Mark shook his head. I only left money for Gary and vegetables." They stepped into the small house and saw Linda sitting on a wooden chair, her legs crossed, enjoying a big plate of steaming hot jollof rice and fried chicken. A bottle of soft drink sat beside her, cold and sweating. Mark stopped in shock. "Linda, you made chicken. You didn't even greet us. Where did you get money for that?" Linda didn't even look at him. She took a long sip of her drink and wiped her mouth with pride. "Oh, you're back," she finally said, her voice full of attitude. "So you now expect me to greet you like a king?" Mark blinked, too tired for games. "I'm hungry. Please serve me some food. We've been working on the farm all day." Linda laughed wickedly. "You must be joking, poor man. Do you think this food is for everyone? This food came from a man who knows how to take care of a beautiful woman, not from a lazy old man like you." Mark's mouth fell open. What are you saying, Linda?" She stood up and faced him. "I said a real man gave me this money. A man that values me. Not a broke man pretending to be a husband." Mark's chest tightened, his hands trembled. "Linda, after everything I've done for you, what about all the money I gave you when I was still wealthy? Any wise woman would have saved something for days like this." Linda clapped her hands and laughed mockingly. "Save for what? You were the billionaire, not me. Why should I save when I was married to the bank itself?" Mark's eyes turned red with anger. "You're foolish, Linda. You're not just foolish, you're stupid too. A woman who has no plans, no respect, and no heart." That was the moment Linda snapped. She dropped her spoon and walked straight to his face. "Stupid? Me? You're calling me stupid?" she screamed. "You ungrateful, lazy man. Do you know how many of my expensive jewelry I sold just to pay your useless debts? You think you're the only one who has suffered?" Vanessa stood in the corner, frozen in shock. Mark tried to calm his voice. "Linda, please, don't talk like this in front of our daughter." But Linda wasn't done. "Your daughter," she scoffed. "She's already like you. Both of you deserve each other, poor, dirty, and hopeless." Mark's eyes filled with tears. "Linda, you're hurting me. Stop hurting you." She laughed loudly again. "Let me hurt you well then. Your late parents, yes, your useless father and mother, they must be in hellfire right now, burning like firewood. For raising a disappointment like you." Mark staggered back like someone had just slapped him with a brick. His lips trembled. "What did you say?" "You heard me," Linda shouted, her eyes blazing. "I said they are burning in hell. They raised a failure, a disgrace, a man who can't even provide one decent meal." That was it. Mark picked up his hoe and walked out of the house, his heart shattered into a million pieces. Behind him, Linda hissed loudly, "Lazy man, get out of my sight. You want food? Go and beg your new farm wife to cook for you." 2 weeks later, while Mark and Vanessa were at the farm trying to clear more land for planting, Linda was at the village square dressed in her finest clothes. Her skin was glowing from the new cream she had bought, and her hair was freshly braided. She stood beside a brand-new black car with tinted windows, laughing softly as Chief Edward opened the door for her. The villagers watched in surprise. Some shook their heads. Others whispered, "That's Mark's wife, right?" "Yes, she is, but see the way she's smiling with the chief." Inside the car, Chief Edward handed Linda a small shiny key. "This is for you, my queen. I rented a beautiful house for you at the edge of the village. Quiet and peaceful. My other wives won't come near you. I don't want them disturbing your beauty." Linda gasped in delight. "Really? You did all this for me?" "Of course," the chief said proudly. "A woman like you deserves soft life, not farming and firewood. That man you married, Mark, he's beneath you. You are meant to be worshipped." Linda smiled, biting her lip. "But what will I tell him? I can't just walk out without saying something." The chief waved his hand. "Tell him you're tired. Tell him the marriage is over. Let him cry if he wants. He failed you, and now it's time for you to live your own life." Linda nodded slowly. "You're right. I've suffered enough. It's time for me to enjoy." That evening, Mark returned home, dragging his tired feet. Vanessa walked beside him, holding a small basket of vegetables they had harvested. As they reached the door, they noticed the house was unusually quiet. No smell of food, no sound of Linda's voice. Just silence. "Linda?" Mark called. No answer. Vanessa checked inside. "Daddy, she's not here. Her clothes are gone." Mark's heart skipped. He rushed to the bedroom. Her shoes, her bags, even her perfume, all gone. Just then, the sound of high heels echoed in the compound. Linda stepped in, dressed in a bright red gown with gold earrings and sunglasses on her head. She didn't smile. She didn't greet. Mark ran to her. Linda, where have you been? We were worried. What happened? Linda dropped a brown envelope on the table. Here, I'm done, Mark. I'm tired of this marriage. Mark's hands shook. What are you saying? I'm leaving, she said coldly. I can't continue living like this. I didn't marry you to suffer. I've found someone who values me, who gives me the life I deserve. Tears welled up in Mark's eyes. Linda, please, don't do this. I know things are hard now, but it's just for a while. I'll fix everything. I'll get back on my feet. Please don't leave me. Linda scoffed. Cry all you want. I've made up my mind. I wasted too many years with you already. Mark dropped to his knees. Think about our daughter. Think about the love we once shared. Linda looked at Vanessa and rolled her eyes. Your daughter is old enough. She has chosen to suffer with you. That's her choice. Mine is different. Vanessa stepped forward. Mum, please. But Linda raised her hand. Save it. I've made my decision. She turned and walked away. Mark broke down completely, crying like a child. He held onto the doorframe, shaking uncontrollably. Linda, please. But she didn't look back. Inside the house, Vanessa held her father tightly, her own tears falling freely. Daddy, you still have me, she whispered. I will never leave you. Days passed like slow-moving clouds in the village sky. Mark sat outside the house every evening, staring at the dusty road where Linda had walked away. He barely ate, he barely spoke. His heart was shattered into pieces too small to pick. Vanessa tried everything to cheer him up. She cooked, cleaned, and even sang for him while they worked on the farm. Daddy, she said one evening as they returned from the farm, Mummy made her choice. But we can't let that break us. You still have your life, and I have you. You taught me how to be strong. Now let me help you stand again. Mark looked at his daughter. Her eyes were filled with love and strength. He nodded slowly, trying to smile. You've become my light, Vanessa, he whispered. Thank you for not giving up on me. But while father and daughter were rebuilding their bond, Linda was living her new life in the beautiful house Chief Edward had rented for her. The rooms were filled with fine furniture, new clothes, perfumes, and everything she had once missed. The chief visited her almost every day, bringing gifts and money. The sun was high in the sky when Linda stepped out of her rented house in a flowing gown, feeling proud and fresh. She stretched her arms and smiled. This is the life I deserve, she thought, comfort, peace, and no stress. But just as she sat down on her veranda to enjoy a bowl of fruits, she heard heavy footsteps and a loud, angry voice. Linda, you shameless woman, come outside. Linda looked up and saw Martha, Chief Edward's first wife, storming into the compound like fire in the wind. She was a strong, bold woman with anger written all over her face. You, Martha shouted, pointing at Linda. So you are the one destroying my home. You left your own husband to follow another woman's man. And you are proud. Linda stood up slowly and crossed her arms. Martha, calm down. I didn't force your husband. He came to me willingly. If you have a problem, take it up with him. Martha laughed coldly. You think this is a joke? I came to warn you, Linda. Leave my husband alone. You better return to your broke husband and stop chasing after other people's men. Linda rolled her eyes. Sorry, I'm not going anywhere. Chief loves me. I'm not the one he hides from. I'm the one he spoils. That reply hit Martha like a slap. She shook with anger. Then you've asked for war, she said, turning sharply. Since you won't listen, I'll go to your useless husband and give him the message myself. And with that, she stormed off. Later that afternoon, Mark sat quietly outside his mud house, drinking water after returning from the farm. Vanessa was inside preparing food when he saw a strange woman walk into the compound. It was Martha. Without greeting, she walked straight to Mark and pointed her finger in his face. So you're the man that couldn't handle his own wife, the man whose woman is now chasing after my husband. Mark stood up slowly, confused. Excuse me, who are you and what are you talking about? I'm Martha, Chief Edward's first wife, she shouted, and I came here to warn you. Talk to that disrespectful woman you call your wife. Tell her to stay away from my husband. If not, I will deal with both of you. Mark's mouth dropped open in shock. Linda, she's with your husband. Yes. And you're sitting here like a fool while she's dragging my home in the mud. Tell her to leave Chief alone before something bad happens. Nonsense, she hissed loudly and walked out before Mark could say another word. Mark slowly sat back down, his head spinning. His heart pained him like someone had driven a knife through it. Vanessa came out. "Daddy, who was that woman?" Mark didn't answer. He just looked into the sky with tears in his eyes, whispering, "God, what did I do to deserve this?" 1 week later, the village was quiet, with the sun high in the sky and the sound of birds singing in the distance. Mark had gone out early to the farm alone, and Vanessa was in the backyard kitchen, preparing lunch with firewood. She had just finished washing vegetables and was slicing onions when she heard footsteps approaching from behind. She turned slowly, and to her surprise, it was Linda, her mother. Vanessa froze. "What are you doing here?" Linda smiled sweetly and stepped closer, like nothing had happened. "I came to see you, my daughter. Can't I check on my own blood?" Vanessa said nothing. Linda looked around the small kitchen and hissed, "Ah, Vanessa, look at you, still sweating and suffering with this firewood. Don't you want a better life? You're too young and beautiful to waste away in poverty." Vanessa rolled her eyes but didn't respond. Linda continued, stepping even closer. "There's a wealthy young man in this village, Chief Edward's nephew. He just returned from the city, handsome, rich and single. I can introduce you. He's looking for a wife. Once he marries you, your life of suffering will end forever." Vanessa dropped the spoon and turned sharply to face her mother. Her voice was firm. "Are you hearing yourself, Mum? You left your husband and now you're walking around selling your own daughter to rich men. You should be ashamed of yourself." Linda's smile disappeared. "Don't talk to me like that," she snapped. "I came here to help a poor girl like you. You and your father have chosen to live in suffering. I'm offering you a way out." Vanessa raised her voice. "A way out? By becoming like you? A woman who left her family for another woman's husband?" Linda's eyes widened in anger. "Keep deceiving yourself. You'll end up like your father, useless and broke. You think dignity will feed you. You think respect will give you soft life. Stay here and rot with him." Vanessa stepped forward, fire in her voice. "Say what you want. Insult me, insult my father, but hear this and hear it well. Never step into this house again. You made your choice and you left us. We didn't send you away. You walked out. So now walk away again, and this time for good." Linda gasped, holding her chest like she had just been slapped. "You dare talk to me like this, after all I went through giving birth to you?" Vanessa pointed at the door of the small kitchen. "If you don't leave right now, I will pour this hot water on you." Linda looked shocked, her mouth hanging open. "You heard me," Vanessa said, gripping the pot tightly. "You left us for a man. Now stay with him. Don't ever come here again to talk nonsense. You are not welcome." Linda stood frozen for a moment, then hissed loudly. "You're just like your father, stubborn and poor. You'll beg one day and I won't answer you." With that, she stormed out of the compound. The next day, the sun shone brightly over the village, but Mark's heart felt heavy. After working hard on the farm all morning, he stopped by the small store near the village square to buy a few basic items: soap, salt, and a box of matches. He picked what he needed and walked to the counter. The store owner, a man named Alfred, greeted him, but his smile faded when he saw the crumpled money Mark placed on the counter. "This isn't enough," Alfred said, counting the cash again. "You're short." Mark looked surprised. "Please, I'll bring the rest of the money tomorrow." Alfred laughed loudly. "So you're begging now? The once rich man is now asking for help. Look at how you've fallen." A few people nearby heard the conversation and chuckled. "See how life can change," one man whispered. "That's why I don't envy anyone." Mark's face turned red with embarrassment. He said nothing. He simply left the items on the counter, turned around and walked away. As he walked down the road, his chest tightened and tears welled up in his eyes. "God, what kind of life is this?" he cried softly. "I worked so hard. I gave everything I had. Why is everything falling apart?" Lost in thought and pain, he didn't see someone coming and accidentally bumped into a young woman. "I'm so sorry," he said, quickly stepping back. The woman looked up and smiled gently. She was strikingly beautiful, her skin glowing under the sun. Her voice was soft and warm. "Are you okay, sir?" she asked kindly. Mark quickly wiped his face. "Yes, I'm fine." She studied his face with concern. "You don't look fine. I saw you coming from the store. You looked very upset. What happened? Mark hesitated. He wasn't used to strangers asking personal questions. It's nothing, just a bad day. She smiled again. Sometimes it helps to talk about it. I may be a stranger, but I'm a good listener. Something in her voice felt safe, so Mark opened up. He told her about his past, how he was once a wealthy man, how his business collapsed, how his wife left him, and how he now struggled to survive with his daughter. The woman listened quietly. When he finished, she placed a gentle hand on his arm. I'm really sorry for everything you've gone through, she said, but please don't give up. Everything will be okay. You just have to keep believing. Mark looked at her, surprised by her kindness. Thank you. What's your name? She smiled brightly. My name is Tina. I'm 35. I just finished medical school 4 months ago. I'm still looking for a job, so I came to the village to stay with my parents for a while. You studied medicine? Mark said, impressed. That's amazing. And you're incredibly kind, too. Tina blushed. Thank you. But please don't cry anymore. You're too handsome to walk around with sad eyes. Mark laughed, a deep, real laugh. It had been so long since he smiled like that. You're calling me handsome now, he teased. I'm just being honest, she said with a wink. Those eyes weren't made for tears. Mark nodded, still smiling. Can we be friends? I'd like to talk more if you don't mind. I'd love that, Tina replied. I'll come visit you this weekend. They exchanged goodbyes, and as Tina walked away, Mark stood still, watching her. For the first time in many weeks, he felt peace. A warm breeze brushed his face, as if God was saying, hope is not lost. That evening, Mark returned home with a lightness in his steps. Vanessa noticed the change immediately. Daddy, what happened? You're smiling like a young man in love. Mark chuckled. You won't believe it, but I met someone today. Her name is Tina. Vanessa gasped playfully. Ah, so fast, Daddy. Tell me everything. He told her how they met, how Tina listened to him, comforted him, and made him laugh when he needed it most. Vanessa grinned. So, what are you saying? You want to marry her already? Mark laughed. I'm serious. She's different. I think I've found my future wife. Vanessa threw a cushion at him. Daddy, that's so soon. Take it easy. He nodded. I know, but sometimes you just know. I believe God sent her to me at the right time. Vanessa smiled and gave him a warm hug. Well, if she's as kind as you say, then I'm happy for you. Mummy already moved on. It's your turn now. Mark looked up at the stars and whispered a quiet prayer. Maybe this really is a new beginning. Saturday morning came. Mark wore his cleanest shirt and carefully combed his hair, checking himself in a small mirror. Vanessa noticed and laughed from the kitchen. Daddy, you've cleaned yourself well, oh. Is the president coming? Mark smiled shyly. No, not the president. Just a friend. A special friend, Vanessa teased. There was a quiet excitement in the air. Tina arrived in a simple yellow dress, her natural hair tied in a neat bun. She looked even more beautiful than Mark remembered. Good afternoon, Mr. Mark, she said with her gentle smile. Please, just call me Mark, he replied, smiling back. You're making me sound like an old man. They both laughed, and Vanessa peeked from the window, smiling to herself. Ah, love is sweet. They sat under the mango tree and talked for hours. Mark shared stories from his past. Tina talked about her dreams of working in a hospital, helping people, and maybe opening a small clinic one day. You have a good heart, Mark said, watching her with admiration. Not many people care like you do. Tina blushed and looked down. Thank you, Mark, but I think your heart is even better. You just went through a lot. By evening, Tina stood to leave. I really had a great time, she said. Mark walked her to the road. Thank you for coming, Tina. I haven't felt this happy in a long time. Tina smiled. You deserve happiness, Mark, and you'll find it again. After she waved goodbye and walked away, Mark stood there for a moment, just smiling at the road. He walked back into the compound, still lost in thought. Vanessa stood with her hands on her hips, waiting. So, Daddy, she said, grinning, what do you think? Mark laughed. Think about what? Vanessa threw her hands up. Ah, Daddy, she's beautiful. Damn, please marry her already. Mark burst into laughter. Calm down, young woman. Take it easy. I'm serious, Vanessa said, smiling. She's kind, she's smart, she's respectful, and she made you laugh. You haven't laughed like that in months. Mark shook his head, still smiling. I like her, Vanessa. I really do. But these things take time. Vanessa winked. Okay, but just know I've already picked my dress for the wedding. They both laughed and walked back inside the house, hearts full of joy, hope, and a little sprinkle of love in the air. After weeks of spending time together, learning about each other, praying and laughing, Mark finally asked Tina the big question. It was a simple evening. They were sitting under the mango tree again, watching the stars. Tina had just finished telling him a funny story from medical school when Mark gently took her hand and said, Tina, I've lost so much in life. But you feel like everything I've been missing. Will you marry me? Tina's eyes widened. Then, without hesitation, she smiled and whispered, Yes, Mark. Yes. 1 month later, they stood as husband and wife in the small village church. Tina wore a simple white gown that floated in the breeze, and Mark wore a clean suit donated by one of his old friends. Vanessa stood proudly beside them, beaming with joy. The wedding wasn't fancy, but it was beautiful. It wasn't loud, but it was filled with love. Even the village women whispered among themselves, This new wife is different. She's respectful and kind. But not everyone was smiling. Far away, Linda was boiling with anger. She had heard the news from her usual gossip circle. She sat with her arms crossed and laughed bitterly. Married? To who? That same poor man that couldn't afford salt last month, she said, shaking her head. Tina is truly a small girl. She doesn't know what she's doing. One hot afternoon, a week after the wedding, Linda finally came face to face with Tina on the village path. Tina was returning from the stream, carrying a small bucket of water and humming to herself. When she saw Tina, Linda laughed loudly, clapping her hands. Ah, so this is the famous village wedding bride, she said. Tina, Tina. You small girl. You actually married that poor old man, Mark. Wow. Is this how low you've fallen? Tina stopped and stared at her, calm but firm. And what's your business with my marriage, Linda? Linda smirked. I'm just shocked. You, a young woman, beautiful and educated, choosing to tie yourself to an old, broke man like Mark. Come to me. Let me introduce you to someone better. My chief friend is very wealthy, powerful. One word from him, and your whole life will change. Tina placed her bucket gently on the ground and crossed her arms. You should be ashamed of yourself, Linda. You left your husband to chase after a married man, and you're here telling me nonsense? Linda hissed loudly. Don't compare us. At least my man is rich. Yours is just a poor old man with nothing. Tina laughed, but her words were sharp. Let me educate you, old woman. My Mark is far better than your so-called chief. He is educated, he is hard-working, he is fit, handsome, and more importantly, he is all mine. And guess what? He is also amazing in bed. I know you miss it, foolish woman. Stop pretending. Linda's eyes nearly popped out of her head. What? You dare speak to me like that? Yes, Tina replied, raising her voice, because you're a disgrace, running after a married man like a lost puppy. Go and look in the mirror. You're not young anymore. Instead of rebuilding your life, you're jumping from man to man like a mosquito. People walking by started slowing down to listen. Some smiled, others whispered. Tina's words were hitting hard. Linda's face was red with anger and shame. Nonsense. Don't worry, you'll regret this marriage. Tina picked up her bucket calmly. I'll only regret wasting more time talking to someone like you. Stay away from me and my husband. She walked away proudly, her back straight, leaving Linda standing in the middle of the road, shaking with rage. From that day, the village respected Tina even more. She wasn't just a beautiful bride, she was bold, smart, and fearless. 2 days after the heated encounter with Linda, Mark called Tina and Vanessa together in the small living room of their village home. The room was quiet, with a soft breeze blowing through the open window. My darlings, Mark began, smiling warmly, I have something important to tell you. Tina looked up from the bowl of groundnuts she was shelling, while Vanessa raised her head from the book she was reading. What is it, Daddy? Vanessa asked. Mark cleared his throat. One of my old friends from the city reached out to me. He owns a company, and he's offered me a new job. Tina's eyes lit up. Really? That's wonderful. Mark continued. The job comes with a good salary, a house, and even a small car. We'll be leaving the village tomorrow. Vanessa jumped up and hugged her father tightly. I'm so happy for you, Daddy. This is your time to shine again. Tina was smiling ear to ear. God is faithful. I told you better days were coming. The next day, they packed their few belongings, said goodbye to the villagers who had become like family, and boarded a bus to the city. The journey was long, but their hearts were filled with hope and excitement. When they arrived, Tina and Vanessa stared in shock as the car drove into a large estate and stopped in front of a massive mansion. The building was painted white with gold trimmings, tall glass windows, and a wide compound with green grass and flowers blooming everywhere. Vanessa's mouth fell open. Daddy, is this the right place? Tina blinked. This looks like a palace. Mark smiled calmly. It's the right place. Come inside. They walked into the mansion, and their eyes widened even more. The living room was massive, with expensive furniture, a giant TV, soft rugs, and shining floors. A grand staircase curved up to the second floor, and a sparkling chandelier hung from the ceiling. Mark turned to them and said gently, There's something you both need to know. Tina and Vanessa exchanged confused glances. What is it? Tina asked. Mark took a deep breath. I never lost my wealth. I only pretended to be poor. What? They both shouted. Yes, Mark continued. I wanted to test my family. Before I was surrounded by fake love. Your mother and Vanessa. He glanced at his daughter. Both of you were living extravagant lives, spending money like water. I needed to know who truly loved me. Tina gasped and covered her mouth. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, Daddy, Vanessa said quietly. I was blind, but I changed. I saw your pain, and I chose to stand with you. I would have still stayed if we never had anything again. Mark smiled and hugged her. I know, my daughter. You proved yourself. And Tina? He turned to his wife. You married me when the world thought I was a poor man. You treated me with love and respect, never asking for what I didn't have. That is real love. Tina blinked away tears. You could have told me. I know, Mark said softly, but I needed to be sure. That evening they had a good meal together. Meanwhile, back in the village, one of the villagers, Mama Peace, rushed to Linda's house with her slippers flapping against the ground. She didn't knock. She barged straight into the compound, shouting loudly, Linda! Linda! Have you heard the news? Big, big news! Linda, who was sitting on her couch, looked up with irritation. What is it now, Mama Peace? Why are you shouting like someone who saw a ghost? Mama Peace laughed excitedly. It's not Ghost-O. It's about Mark, your ex-husband. Linda rolled her eyes. What about him? They said Mark is not poor, Mama Peace shouted. He owns a big mansion in the city. A real mansion, with cars, servants, everything. He just acted poor to test you and Vanessa because of how both of you were living like money grew on trees. He fooled everybody in this village, Linda hissed. Is that why you're screaming like a mad woman? That's not my business. Let him stay and be living fake life. I know Mark is poor. He's just packaging. Me, I'm not moved. Mama Peace chuckled. Believe what you like. But the way people are talking about him and that doctor wife of his, you'll think they are royalty. I'm not moved, Linda snapped. My chief is more wealthy than 10 Marks. Let him enjoy his small show. When people are tired of talking, they'll face their own problems. Mama Peace shook her head and walked away, whispering to herself, Pride is a dangerous thing. 2 months after moving to the city, Mark and Tina's life was filled with peace, joy, and quiet comfort. Each day brought new reasons to smile. Their home was warm and calm, not because of luxury alone, but because of the deep love they shared. One quiet Saturday morning, Tina stood in the bathroom, staring at a small white strip in her hand. Her hands trembled. Her heart beat faster than usual. She walked out slowly, holding the test result, and stood in front of Mark, who was reading on the couch. Honey, she said softly. He looked up, eyes full of love. Yes, my queen? I think I'm pregnant. Mark blinked. Wait, what? She nodded slowly, showing him the test. I'm pregnant. In a flash, Mark jumped up, speechless for a few seconds. Then his face broke into the widest smile she had ever seen. He shouted with joy and pulled her into a deep, warm hug. "Oh my God, we're having a baby. Tina, this is the best news ever." Tina laughed through her happy tears. "I didn't know whether to scream or cry, but I knew I had to tell you first." Mark held her face gently in his hands. "You've given me peace, Tina. You've given me love. And now you're giving me a child. You don't even know how much you mean to me." Later that evening, Mark asked Tina to dress up and follow him. He didn't say where they were going. They drove across the city until they reached a beautiful fenced area with workers walking around. Machines, trucks, and building materials were everywhere. It looked like a project under construction. Tina turned to him, confused. "Mark, what's this?" Mark smiled as he helped her out of the car. "Come with me." They walked toward a large signboard already mounted at the gate. On it were the words, "Future Site of Dr. Tina Mark Specialist Hospital." Tina froze. She turned slowly to him. "Mark, is this a joke?" He held her hands. "No, it's not. This is your dream, a hospital, your own, fully equipped, managed by you. This is my gift to you, for standing by me, for marrying me when I had nothing, for loving me like no one else ever did." Tina's eyes filled with tears. She covered her mouth, struggling to speak. "I don't deserve this. Mark, this is too much." He smiled and pulled her into his arms. "No, Tina, you deserve even more. You saw my pain and you didn't walk away. You believed in me. You made me a better man. This hospital is not just a gift, it's a thank you. From my heart to yours." She leaned into his chest, crying softly. "I love you, Mark." "And I love you too," he whispered, kissing her forehead. "Forever." Back in the village, life continued as usual, but not for Linda. The chief she had once proudly followed, the man she left her husband for, had started showing his true colors. He was no longer interested in Linda the way he used to be. New faces were entering his compound. Young women from nearby villages, girls barely older than Linda's daughter. At first, Linda tried to keep quiet, but as the days passed, the chief's attention faded. He stopped giving her money. He stopped visiting. Even when she went to his house, the guards wouldn't let her in without warning. One afternoon, Linda stood outside the chief's gate, banging loudly. "Chief, come out and talk to me. Why are you treating me like this, after everything I left behind for you?" He finally stepped out. "Linda," he said calmly, "don't embarrass yourself." "You knew what this was." Linda shouted, "I gave up my husband. I gave up my home, my family, all because of you." The chief shrugged. "And I gave you money. We're even. Stop acting like a victim. You knew other women were involved. If you want loyalty, go to a dog." With that, he walked back into his mansion. Linda stood there shaking, heartbroken, humiliated, and alone. Days later, she began to feel weak. First, it was a fever. Then her joints ached. Her skin grew pale. She lost weight rapidly, and her energy disappeared. At first, she thought it was malaria, then typhoid, but no drug seemed to work. Finally, she went to the local clinic. The doctor, a soft-spoken woman, ran some tests. When the results came back, she sat Linda down quietly. "Madam Linda," the doctor said gently, "I'm very sorry, but you have tested positive for HIV." The words hit her like thunder. Her ears rang. The room spun. She stared at the doctor, unable to speak. "Please try to stay calm," the doctor said. "You'll need to start treatment immediately. You're not alone. People are living with this. But the earlier, the better." Linda didn't hear the rest. She stood up slowly, walked out of the clinic like a ghost, and headed straight for the chief's house. When she arrived, she was like a storm. "Chief," she screamed, "come out here now." He came out, looking irritated. "What is it this time?" "You've destroyed my life," she shouted. "You ruined me. You turned me into a terrible woman. Now I'm sick with something I can't cure. The doctor said I'm HIV positive." The chief raised his brow. "So you've come to blame me? How do you even know it's from me? Were you not jumping from man to man?" Linda broke down right there in the compound, crying like a child. "I had a good life, a husband who loved me, a daughter who respected me. I destroyed everything chasing money and fake love. I wish I could go back. I wish I could take it all back. But it was too late. She returned to her house, lying on her bed, staring at the ceiling with tears running down her cheeks. I should have stayed. I should have listened. I had gold, and I threw it away for glitter. Months passed, and while Mark and Tina were celebrating their newborn baby in the city, holding their son, smiling, surrounded by joy, Linda was alone in the village, battling her illness, with no one to care for her. She often sat outside her house, whispering to herself, "Tina, I called you foolish. But you were wise. You saw what I didn't. You chose love. I chose pride. Look where it brought me." Moral of this story: never trade love and peace for pride and empty promises. Money can come and go, but true love, respect, and faithfulness are treasures no one can buy. Appreciate the people who love you for who you are, because one day you may look back, and regret will be the only thing left. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching and stay blessed.